First of all, I want to thank you for holding this event, and I'm really happy to be here. I always appreciate the opportunity to speak at this kind of event. And I look forward to working with Bisnow in a couple of weeks at the International Life Sciences and Biotech Conference, which is, another one of the really important things that's happening here. And this event is a big deal, and why the county and our EDC and the state are supporting that event, and the governor of Maryland is going to be at that event as well. We've been working very hard to make sure that life sciences is on the governor's agenda, and he's been very responsive. So I want to talk a little bit about Montgomery County, the state of Montgomery County, and things I think we need to do in Montgomery County. I know that I have a reputation as being against development. I think there are people here who would not be surprised to hear me say that. But actually, you and I want the same thing. The caveat for me was I always wanted development, but it has to come with infrastructure. You can't build housing without schools. You can't build dense development without adequate transportation. It doesn't work if you don't do the things together, and the most successful jurisdictions do that. And that's what we need to do. Because the infrastructure is what makes us attractive to development, and the development growth and revenue helps support education, economic fairness, and opportunity. For many years, what I heard from the development community was life was better in Northern Virginia. I'm sure you've heard that before. I know any number of you have said that before. And I heard it so much that I started going to events in Northern Virginia. I used to be pretty much the only elected official from Montgomery County who would go to Stephen Fuller's annual presentation on the state of the regional economy, because I wanted to be in the room with people who were talking about the economy and what they thought needed to be done at a regional level. And Fuller, though he was tied to Virginia, was really somebody who had a broader perspective, and his perspective in economic development encompassed the entire DC area. I spoke to planners and regulatory agencies about how we differed. I literally went to every planning department in the DC area pretty much and asked the planners and the head of the planning departments how they did their planning and how they accommodated growth in terms of both traffic and schools, things that were particularly important to me. And I concluded three things out of the time I spent talking to people. One is Virginia plans better than Montgomery County does. And frankly, Virginia plans better than Maryland does. And second, they tax smarter than we do. I mean, I'm going to show you some stuff later on that may surprise you, but be prepared for the fact that Virginia, Fairfax County taxes commercial property almost 50% higher than Montgomery County taxes commercial property. And that's not what most people think. The assumption is, and I hear it all the time, Virginia's a low tax state. Not if you're a developer, it's not a low tax state. And the other thing is Virginia delivers to developers what they need. So you can look at Tyson's Corner and look at the transformation in Tyson's, and you see a remarkable transformation from two shopping centers, as nondescript as any shopping centers could have been back in the day, to an economic hub for Fairfax County that's unrivaled by any place else in Fairfax County. They've done all of this in not a very long time. And since taking office in December 2018, I've focused very heavily on doing whatever I can to make the changes to try to make Montgomery County more like Fairfax County. I take no pride of authorship in ideas. Good decisions are made by people who steal ideas liberally from people who've shown their ability to make things work. And I've always felt that we should look around, and there's a phrase we could use called the Montgomery County way. I don't actually believe in it. We need to be, whatever way works is the way we should be following. And Virginia became pretty fascinating. I've intervened in every stuck process and project in Montgomery County to make sure they got unstuck. And where you'll see it the most, if you go to the east side of the county, the project being done in Viva White Oak by the Bramble Company, is an amazing transformation of 300 acres. And we're working full-time with them to make sure they get the infrastructure they need. We will probably be unveiling a taxing method that Montgomery County has never used, but that a lot of other jurisdictions use. We're trying to make it possible for him to get the infrastructure built so he can do what he plans to do there. And in here, we're working with Mulata on developing the station in North Bethesda, around Pike and Rose. The Ramada station there is destined to be the ultimate home of the Institute for Health Computing, which is something that comes from the University of Maryland. It's going to focus AI development and marry AI development to drug research, big data, and patient well-being. And they ultimately will get a building, a signature building on top of that property, and the goal is that they will bring businesses in and around them. And our goal as a county is to develop the White Flint Center, all of it, from the Lerner property up to the station, with a focus around life sciences. And we believe we can do it. It was zoned for 15 million square feet of Amazon. And I believe over the next 5 to 10 years, we can put an equivalent amount of square footage there, but this time driven by life sciences. And if you've ever been to Boston and seen Kendall Square, you get an idea what I'm talking about. A dense urban area with a metro, with all the amenities that people want to go to a place for, but heavily concentrated with life sciences companies. And that's what we're looking at. But our progress isn't just in North Bethesda and in downtown Bethesda. United Therapeutics is expanding in downtown Silver Spring. They are going to be manufacturing lungs, like actual lungs, for people in downtown Silver Spring. And there will be hundreds of employees there. We just made a deal with them to sell them our garage and get another piece of land to rebuild the garage. They will knock down the garage and they'll build the factory there. That's not a small thing. AstraZeneca is expanding in Gaithersburg. As I said, Viva White Oak is coming online in eastern Montgomery County. Viva White Oak is also going to be the home of Montgomery County, East County campus for Montgomery College. So that's going to bring an academic institution to the east side of the county, something we've never had before. We're examining all of our life sciences assets. We're determining what does Montgomery not have that other jurisdictions have. We want to make sure we're ranked number 3 in life sciences. I don't know if people know that, but we are the number 3 area in the country in life sciences. We're very unknown. For number 3, we perform badly in terms of press and awareness. And our goal is to change that and to make a mark. And what we're focused on is making sure that we have everything in Montgomery County that San Francisco and Boston have. I don't want to get in a discussion with somebody who says, I'd like to come to Montgomery County, but I can't come here because you don't have X or Y. We want to make sure that any X and any Y that is present in San Francisco or Boston becomes present in Montgomery County. So we're working on building up our infrastructure here. We've just made a deal with the Henry Jackson Foundation, major Army medical research facility off of Democracy Boulevard, and we're doing a co-branded incubator with them. And we're doing a co-branded incubator with the Maryland Tech Council on training for the life sciences in terms of drug manufacturing. And that's a big deal for the life sciences industry. They need talent. Creating an actual facility here to create that talent is one of the things that's a mark of some of these other centers, and it's something we're putting in place here. And on top of all that, in the kind of world of cool puffery, Niche.com and Travel Leisure both named North Bethesda as in the top 5 best suburbs in the country, and Fortune named Silver Spring as the number 1 best place for families to live in the country. So we're getting recognized for some of the things that we have that I think are really important. There's a lot more to Montgomery County than you can find in any one place. We're the most amazingly diverse place in the country almost. I think maybe the most. We have 3 of the top 10 diverse cities in Montgomery County, which is not a small thing. We have this population, which was 95% white and 4.5% black and 0.5% everybody else in 1970, is now 16% Asian, 21% black, 21 or 22% Hispanic, and then people like me or everybody else. And so that's a remarkable change in a county that's managed this transformation and still able to play at the top of its game. And a lot of other communities could not manage that transformation. We've been able to manage it. And our county finances are strong. If you follow budgets, you know that the county had never achieved its 10% reserve goal before I was county executive. Since I've been county executive, our reserves have grown every year, and we ended June 30th with 17% reserves, 7% over target. We were able to use that money to spend money on one-time things we normally couldn't get, so we could take that money and put it to work back in the community. But we are very healthy. We've had AAA ratings for, I forget how many years it is. It's like
50,
more than 50 years of AAA ratings. The bonding agencies make very strong comments about the way we manage finances in the county. We're well aware that because you have money doesn't mean you should spend it, and that you have to be careful in your investments and you have to look long term. And we've been really focused on doing those things during the last 5 years. I've also been reaching out internationally. That we're raising awareness in Montgomery County on a global stage, and we found that biotechs around the world actually want to set up in Montgomery County. We've been, in the last year, I've traveled to Taiwan twice, Vietnam once, China, India, South Korea, and South Korea. And all these places, we find companies that are interested in coming here, and many of the biotech companies talk about two things, NIH and FDA. And any of you who are interested in biotech know that the path to the market in the United States is through the FDA. There's no international FDA where if you get approval by an international organization, you have approvals anywhere. You got to get them in different countries. This market is one of the largest markets in the world, with amazing amounts of disposable income. Even for the Chinese, with multiples of our population, this is an important market to have a presence in. And so there are a lot of people that want to be here and they want to invest here, and they're interested in the resources we have. NIH is an amazing source of talent. The FDA is where you're going to get your approvals. NIST is here, so it's present in the IT field and other fields that aren't biological, but they do have some biological work. And we work on all those, and we're trying to attract companies here in all of these different fields. We're not just focusing on biotech, we're focusing also on light manufacturing and trying to grow IT. And with the AI Center at, not so far from here, but off of Executive Boulevard, the AI Center from the University of Maryland, though it's primarily focused on life sciences, is also going to be available to companies that work in the non-life sciences who are interested in applications of AI. So this is an enormous asset for us to have in Montgomery County, and they just opened up. They've got 70 people working there, and they're going to do, I guess, a grand opening later this fall. And so I hope all of you will come up there and see what they're doing, because it's important for Montgomery County. All these countries we go to are familiar with the diversity of Montgomery County. When we go overseas, we travel with people who are native to China and Vietnam and Korea, because we want them to hear from expatriates who live in the United States what it's like to live here, why they brought businesses here, why they operate businesses here. Some people operate on both sides of the Pacific Ocean, some are only operating here, but their voices are more valuable than any advertising I could buy and any brochure I could hand out in the conference. Having somebody tell you that I can find the food I want, practice the religion I want, be among people who share my cultural background is enormously valuable to people thinking about, is my company going to go over there, and how are my employees going to feel about living in a place? Are they going to feel welcome, or are they going to feel that they're stranded in a foreign land? And Montgomery County has the things that are important, that are valued by these countries, and we think it's one of the reasons that we have an interest in these companies coming to Montgomery County. So we're continuing to meet with people. We're going to be doing these trips annually. You can't make a relationship with somebody by stopping by one night and saying, hey, really nice to meet you, hope you come here. You actually have to come back. You have to act with intention, and you have to be deliberate about what you do. We're being very deliberate about what we do and trying to get companies to think of Montgomery County as a location. And we've attracted, in advanced tech, a company like Intellian, which you can see their building from I-270. They invested $100 million here for an R&D facility for building antennas for communications, and somehow stay on boats and bounce up and down the ocean and still receive a steady signal so that people can watch Netflix on their cruises. This is important work people are doing. Obviously, it has a lot of other interesting uses. And one of the things we've been focusing on is beginning to talk about our location, not just because of what we have in the sciences, but our transportation location. Montgomery County is like 30 minutes from Baltimore. And the Port of Baltimore gets you up and down the East Coast, South America, and across to Europe. None of the companies we're courting are thinking, I'm just going to do business in Montgomery County. It's about, am I going to plant my business here in Montgomery County and get my products out to the world? There are few places that have what we have in terms of a port and in terms of rail lines. The rail lines that go through the state of Maryland go north to south on the East Coast and penetrate all the way across the country. So if you're here and you've got products you need to deliver someplace, we've got the way to deliver those products. And we were actually in a meeting with a car manufacturer in China, and I mentioned Port of Baltimore being the largest auto port in the country, and that, you know, if you're interested in manufacturing cars, you might want to think about coming here. And he actually took out a notebook and started taking notes on that, because people are looking to expand, and we're happy to be the location that they expand to. So I think Montgomery County is in a really strong place. We've got decent schools, we've got really strong communities here, we've got, you know, incomes that can sustain us. The county government is able to provide a wide range of services. I would match our services up against pretty much anybody's services. And we see a path forward. And I think attracting the university presence here is important for us, and I think making these links to other opportunities for us to grow are important. But Montgomery County is missing something that some of our neighbors are better able to handle than we are. We need to figure out how we can compete better with the neighbors in this region and around the nation. And the number one impediment we have is transportation. And we've known about this for a long time. People were talking about this back in, God knows when, the early part of the 21st century. And we're talking about transportation being the key to economic development. And Montgomery County has not been able to make the progress that it needs to make, and it is seriously holding us back. We've got a plan for a BRT network. It's 110 lane miles of bus rapid transit on every major corridor in Montgomery County. It connects people from where they live to where they work. This is all based on origin-destination pairs of where people are living in the county and where the jobs are. The goal is to create this system and to make it possible for us to do what we need to do in order to further attract businesses here. But we have a couple of impediments, and I want to talk about what they are. First, we have to make it easier to do business in Montgomery County. Our planning system makes it very hard to do business in Montgomery County. It is different than any place else in the state and the region. All the places in green, the planning function is primarily under the executive branch of the government, except for the planning boards, those that have planning boards. But the government function, all the agencies that approve things, are under the government. The only ones that aren't green is us in the red and Prince George's County in the yellow. Both of us have planning boards that are different than fully independent, but in Prince George's County, the planning board's appointed by the county executive there. All the people who work in the agencies of the county. In Montgomery County, we've got a bizarre two-track system, unlike anything else. Montgomery County, the guys on the right, you have to go through an approval process that means getting approvals from Park and Planning and then getting approvals from the county government. And the county government has to implement. And those little red lines going back and forth is what developers experience as they go through the process here. Trying to serve two masters and make two masters happy, which takes time, which takes money, leads to delay, and makes any project here more expensive than it would be if you were trying to do this in Virginia. We also need to create a new system to replace impact fees. Impact fees are fees we collect from developers when a project's built. At the beginning of the project, you pay sometimes millions of dollars. It's for the impact on transportation and schools. It's added to your capital stack because it's in the beginning, and then your rents or your leases have to reflect the amount of money you had to borrow to build that capital stack. Virginia doesn't do that. Virginia has created special taxing districts, and inside the special taxing districts, commercial property is taxed differently than residential property, which is why I said that in Tyson's Corner, they're paying $1.50. But for $1.50, they built a world-class transit system, and they're doing this in all the Northern Virginia counties. They're doing it effectively, and all that money goes only to transit projects. It cannot be used for the general fund. So it's not a backdoor to getting additional taxes out of development for the general fund. It's the front door to get the money we need to get to raise in order to build the infrastructure that Montgomery County needs. And that, to us, is our biggest problem. We cannot build infrastructure here. We have not been able to build BRT, and it's been on the books now since I started working on it in 2008. We haven't built a single proper BRT line because we don't have the money to do it, and the state doesn't either. And if you were in with me in Ocean City when the governor's cabinet spoke to us about what was happening with their budget, there was going to be no transportation money in the budget going forward. They're even talking about cutting planning money out of the transportation budget. So we're faced with a county across the river that builds like crazy and invests like crazy, where developers were actually the ones who went to Richmond with a Republican governor and a Republican legislature and got them to give the Northern Virginia the authority to create these special taxing districts. That's the difference between us and Virginia since 2012 and 2013. They created these special taxing districts. The special taxing districts have raised a substantial amount of money. They have one transportation authority alone, Northern Virginia Transit Authority, that generates $500 million a year for the Northern Virginia counties. That's separate from Fairfax County's B-Poll tax, which gets $200 million a year from businesses, from their special taxing districts in Tyson's, which bring their total tax rate up to about $1.50, or the 12.5 cents on every square inch of commercial property in Fairfax County that is used to build infrastructure and infrastructure only. Again, not for the general fund, only for infrastructure. I believe Fairfax County understands exactly what they're doing, that building infrastructure is what brings companies to Fairfax County, the ability to move people, be able to move a center and say, we can build a dense Tyson's Corner, but we can do that because we have the ability to move people to get there. And one of the most bothersome notes I have is that, in Arlington, where they built the Potomac Yard Station, here's a county with $800 million budget, floats a $240 million bond. That's $40 million less than my total bonding capacity in Montgomery County. This is from a small county with a tiny budget that can do a project like that because they have these impact fees that allow them to pay for things over 30 years and only pay for them. And the more you build, the lower the taxes get because you're only paying for the bonds that built the project. The more development that happens, the more the taxes actually go down. So, we think that this is the time for us to try to make a move forward and build the infrastructure that we need. We are long past the point where we can afford to keep looking at the taillights of Virginia. We can't be in a position where we continue to ask ourselves, how do they do it? We know how they do it. It's time for us to do what they do. And again, like I said in the very beginning of this, I have no pride in authorship of this idea. But all you got to do is look across the river and see what they're able to do with it, and look what we've been able to do. It's not because politicians here didn't want to do something, but it's because politicians here could not wrap their way thinking about how they're going to get it done. Virginia ranked third best place in the country for infrastructure. Maryland ranked 37th. And Virginia ranked as the best place for business in the country. Maryland ranked 31. So despite the fact they had higher taxes, they were deemed to be a better place for business. And that's what we're asking people to wrap their head around in Montgomery County. It's time to do the things we need to do, to build the infrastructure we need to build, so we can be competitive with the people who we talk about far too much for their success and don't actually do the work we need to do to put ourselves into a situation where we can do the same thing. So I'm asking people here to be a part of change in Montgomery County, to help us move the council, to help us move the state legislature, to give us the same authority that the state legislature in Virginia gave to the Northern Virginia counties. Let us raise money so we can build the things we need to build. It's that simple. We build the stuff, we will attract people, and we can share in their success. We continue not to build things, we will continue to lose the competitive race against the Northern Virginia counties. And I think this is too important for us to lose. And I want people to understand that, I hear a lot about Virginia from people. I don't want people to talk about it if they're not willing to do what Virginia does. It is not useful to say, look at Virginia, look at what they're doing, and not ask yourself the question, how did they get to do what they're doing? And that's what I'm asking you all to think about today. How did Virginia get to do what they're doing? What did it mean? And why doesn't Montgomery County take that same path? Montgomery County's got an opportunity. We've got everything we need to be successful. We need to put this all together. We need to get it done this year. We're going into a legislative session where there's a will, and because of the state's financial condition, even the Republican counties in the state of Maryland are asking for the same thing I'm asking for, because everybody's dead in the water. If there's no state money and you totally depend on the state, nothing's going to get done anywhere. So this is a perfect year. It's the perfect storm. We've got a county that can handle this, and we're prepared to lead this county and make sure we build what we need, we attract the businesses we need, and we build the kind of economy that everybody here wants. I am interested. I cannot fund as liberal as I am. Social programs will not be funded without money. And an economy that is not growing does not provide the revenue for schools and the social programs that we need. So I am as married to this as business person is married to the idea of growth as well. We both need to grow if we're both going to stay healthy. So I'll take any questions if you got time for that. And but thank you all very much for giving me a few minutes to talk to you.